to this week's pod. For those of you watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop your comments down below, share the video with any Arsenal, United or football fans in general. All helps with our viewership and the algorithms and all that. For those listening on Spotify, Apple or any other podcasting platform, please follow, give us a 5-star review if you can. And the same applies there, all helps with the algorithm. Lots of results happening over the Christmas and New Year's period. We won't go into each one. Obviously, for Arsenal, you had trips to Selhurst Park where you won 5-1 against Palace. You had a home 1-0 victory over Ipswich, a 3-1 win away at Brentford, a 1-1 draw at Brighton, and then most recently, yesterday, you had a 2-0 home defeat against Newcastle in the first leg of the Carabao Cup. So we'll start off with you, John. So we won't go into each game, but in that period of time, you've got 10 points out of 12 in the league. Not too bad. I know the last game against Brighton was the one where you did drop those points. So I don't know if you feel a bit more negative about it. But obviously yesterday, Carabao Cup, first leg defeat against Newcastle. What have you made of your results and performances over the period? And then we'll get into that Newcastle game in particular.
Yeah, I think given the circumstances, they're not horrible. I think if you took out the context of Liverpool leading the league quite heavily, looking like we're never going to get close to winning the Premier League, it looks okay. Like it would probably be happy with it last season, maybe a little bit disappointed with the Brighton result, obviously a little bit disappointed with the Newcastle result too, but overall I don't think we'd be too upset. But if you add that context back in, the fact that we're, even though we're second, we're pretty far off Liverpool in general, and it looks like it's really theirs to lose, that then adds the context that we have to win something. And then you add in the fact that we lost in the Carabao Cup, at least the first of the two legs, but it's the home leg as well. So it's going to be definitely an uphill battle from here. I think when you add all of that context back in, it looks and feels a lot worse for us, right? Obviously there's more nuance to the situation. If you look at the Brighton game, I'm not happy with how that went from a refereeing standpoint. I definitely think we weren't good enough as well, but at the same time, we shouldn't always have to play perfectly or play really, really well. If we deserve to win and we don't deserve to have penalties given against us, then we shouldn't have them given against us. So that whole argument of if you just played well and you were better in front of goal, then it wouldn't happen. Yeah, great. But how many times have Liverpool won? How many times have Man United won over the years where they haven't played their best football and they've still gone on to win while deserving to win, even though it's not the greatest of games? I think that's a great example of that. I don't agree that was a penalty, and I'm not happy with it at all. Same goes for with the Arsenal-Newcastle game. I'm a little less, I guess, pushing blame elsewhere. I think Arsenal were poor, and I think my main complaint is we can't finish our dinner. We had 23 shots on goal, or 23 shots, only 3 on goal, created 6 big chances, of which we missed all of them. Havertz is shouldering things off the post, shouldering things wide of the post. Martinelli's hitting posts. We just can't seem to finish our dinner. There's not a single, clinical bone in a lot of those attackers' bodies. And that's really, really frustrating for me. Add to the fact that I think Isak pushed Odegaard unnecessarily. He used it to get an advantage in the play to be able to score. I think it just hurts even more, right? So if you take away one of their goals, it's 1-0 to them. If you add in at least the Havertz finish off his bloody shoulder, then it's at least 1-1. We could go out of that game thinking, we didn't play well, but we've still got a chance to go and win it at St. James's Park. So overall, it's poor finish to those festive results. And I think it's really context that makes those results really hurt. Because, the Palace win, the Ipswich win, the Brentford win, none of them were great, like really, really great wins, but they were wins nonetheless. And to finish off that 5-game period with a 2-0 loss to bloody Newcastle and a very bloody controversial 1-1 draw to Brighton, it just makes it all feel like it was, what was the point of going to win against Crystal Palace, Ipswich and Brentford? It kind of sours the whole thing. So yeah, that's where I stand really.
No, I hear you, man, because at this point, performances would be great, but getting the wins is the most important thing. Trying to, shorten that gap to Liverpool. And the way it's ended up being is you kind of match their results. When you've drawn, they've drawn. When they've drawn, you've drawn. And there's been no, the opportunities you would have had to close the gap a bit, you seem to have just fallen short when that opportunity arises. So I remember a few pods back we talked about the only chance you've got is you've got to shorten that gap before they widen it. And you've had the opportunities to shorten it, but you've just not quite taken advantage. And yeah, I want to hone in on that Brightford, merge Brighton and Brentford, that Brighton game, that illness has done me over. That Brighton game, because I agree with you, man. It's been interesting looking at the looking at the reaction to that penalty, because on first glance, it did look like Saliba headbutted him, to be honest. Not like maliciously, but it looked like it was a clash of heads and he kind of mistimed it. But when you slowed it down, and after Arteta said, no, Saliba got the ball first and then it's a clash of heads, we obviously, all of us, I think, went back and looked at it and was like, bloody hell, he did actually get a nick on the ball first.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't intentional for him to header the ball. I think he tried to header the first initial ball, which João Pedro gets, but it doesn't really matter. He gets the nick on the flight of the ball, and then he, makes contact with João Pedro. And it's been really interesting to see all the pundits say, they've almost unanimously all said it's a pen. I haven't seen, maybe you've seen some others that have said that it's not, but they've pretty much all said that. And I'm just baffled because with the new information...
The Match of the Day lot came out and said, no way in hell that's a pen.
Oh, okay.
Danny Murphy,
Yeah,
Gary Lineker, and somebody else came out and basically just said, there's no way in hell that's a pen. Every single Sky Sports related pundit has come out and said that's a pen. You've had Dermot O'Gallagher coming out and chatting out of his arse as well, or Gallagher, whatever his name is, chatting out of his arse as well and saying that it's a penalty. It's ridiculous, right? Never in history have we had a clash of heads given as a penalty, right? He's touched the ball first, and not only would I say has he touched the ball, he's dispossessed the man, because people are trying to pull it back up and say, oh, do you remember Tariq Mitchell or Lamptey, sorry, the Lamptey challenge on Gabby Jesus last year, and trying to say that that's an example of him getting the ball and it still being a penalty. Yeah, but one of them's with the feet, one of them's a sliding challenge, one of them doesn't dispossess the man. If you go back to the Gabby Jesus one, you'll notice that the ball was still going in the exact same direction that Gabby Jesus would have been going. If Lamptey did not touch him, Gabby Jesus would have still been in possession of the ball, right? So the challenge did not dispossess the man. There's no point even in touching the ball because he didn't do anything. With the with the Saliba one, in my opinion, it's a crowded area, right? First of all. Second of all, he's dispossessed or moved the ball enough away from João Pedro to be able to say that's never in his possession anymore. He's never getting on the end of that anymore. Second of all, it's not careless, it's not reckless, and it's not, what was the other one? I think they tried to say it has to be dangerous. I don't understand how it meets any of those three criteria, right? The only thing that you probably say is that it could be dangerous because it's with the head. But again, any single other time that this has happened where it's been a clash of heads, two people going up for it, trying to header the ball and heading each other by accident, it's never given as a penalty. It's never given even as a foul.
It's accidental, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's understood because
now everyone wants to use the word
headbutt.
headbutt, right? When have you ever seen them people come out and try and use the word, oh, he's headbutted him, as if this is like an intentional action to try to nut the man? I've seen so many people try and paint it with that brush and say it's a headbutt. It's a headbutt, and it's just like, it's typical, and it's mainly Liverpool fans doing this. It's mainly Chelsea fans doing this. Let's be honest, right? The reasonable people are not coming out and saying, oh, that's a foul. Especially when they realise if that happened to me, I'd be absolutely livid, right? And we're 1-0 up as well, and we're relatively coasting or cruising at that point. It's mental.
I mean, I think with new information, you change your opinion, right? This is why I know we banter in our group chat or whatever about, I'm constantly told that I'm hating when I say you need more than one angle and a still to make a decision on things. Because when I first saw that incident during the game, I thought that was a pen because I didn't see the connection on the ball. I didn't see anything like that. Yeah. I thought it was very harsh, but I could understand why it was given. When you see the nick on the ball, I'm sorry. And you might point back and we might joke about the Casemiro stuff from a couple of years back. But I hate this now where you can get the ball and your follow-through can still deem the challenge a foul or give away a penalty or get a red card. Unless you are going in with full force, i.e. like Ryan Shawcross on Aaron Ramsey style, where you get the ball but you're fully trying to like absolutely hammer the guy, then I understand that decision being made. But even that Lamptey one that you mentioned, I didn't like that at the time. I understand why it's given, but I don't like it. I don't think that's fair. If you get the ball, whatever after is collateral damage, unless you're trying to do the player, which with Lamptey, I don't think he tried to do. The Casemiro ones before, I think it was, remember when he got the ball and then he followed through and then he got a red card for it.
In my opinion,
like that one. And I don't like this Saliba one. He got the ball. He nutted him afterwards. I'm saying nutted as a joke, but he got him afterwards. But it was totally unintentional. He's contesting the ball. And when you see that other angle and you see the other evidence to show that he did nick the ball, and not only did he nick the ball, he changed the flight of the direction of the ball. So he had an impact on the ball. It wasn't like he got a slight touch, it was still going the same place, and then he's done him, which even then, getting into that minutia pisses me off, because football's a simple game. You don't need to referee it to that level of granularity. That's not a pen to me, right? And you can blame Arsenal's attack for not creating anything afterwards, because it did look like Brighton were more likely to score after that. But that's a big incident that changes the course of the game. If they don't get the pen, you maybe sit back, you maybe catch them on the break and win 2-0, right? That's very likely to happen. So it changes the whole face of the game, and now you've dropped 2 points, which, for Arsenal supporting non-Arsenal fans like me, who don't want Liverpool to win, it's annoying, because we did the job, surprisingly, which we'll get to later, the following day, and you haven't been able to capitalise because the ref has decided, he's going to referee the game in a different way, and make that decision. So it's frustrating, man.
It's very frustrating, and I mean, from my point of view, I'm not shocked anymore, really. I think we've had. I'm not going to play like VAR Olympics, who's been done over the most, but we've had a lot of shocking decisions. I'm not going to say we've had more than anyone else, but we've had enough that I'm just kind of tired of it at this point, right? We've had second yellows multiple times for kicking the ball away, and then it's not been pulled out on anybody else. We've had red cards given for last man, and then seen other people not get that treatment. We've seen this happen. I haven't seen anybody else being given a penalty against them for this reason. We've seen all kinds of stuff, right? We see the Newcastle thing happen again. It's every single time we play them at this point, they're doing something that I think is against the rules. And as much as you want to laugh, we can look at like the Joe Linton push on Gabriel, right? We can look on whether the ball was in or out. I'm not even talking about those. I'm talking about the fact that Bruno G has literally punched up our players about 4 different times. I'm talking about the ones that have been blatant, where we've had literally nothing. And those aren't the ones where Liverpool fans and Chelsea fans complain and say, "Oh, you're just moaning." No. If you saw anybody like Bruno G punch up one of your players or elbow one of your players, you'd be crying the same way I'm doing, right? So I'm not even going to talk about any of those anymore. But like it's happened so frequently now that I've kind of lost faith in us getting the luck of the draw anywhere. And I'm sure Liverpool fans will say, "Oh, but what about the Odegaard handball, and what about this, that, and the other?" And I'm saying, yeah, sure. Right? If that's how far you've got to go back to try and find the last time that we've actually got a decision in our favour, then fine. You can go that far back and that's all good. But try and find me one this season. Find me one in the calendar year of 2024. Find me one in the second half of it. Find me one anywhere near it, because I can call out immediately Liverpool and Chelsea ones where they've got away with stuff in the last, let's say, 3 months. So we don't need to do that. I've lost faith in VAR. I've lost faith in the referees, and from now on, I mean, I guess the onus is on us, right? Arteta knows he's not going to get any decisions anywhere near given for him, even when they fairly should be, and he knows that he's got to make a team that is invincible to win this league. So he knows what he's got to do now. No more moaning. Let's just go and do it. And if we do win the league, I don't want anyone moaning about we got given it, we got an asterisk next to us, whatever else, right? I want to say you lot have fully deserved to win that, even with the referees against you and everybody else against you. So Arteta knows what he's got to do. Let's go and do it now, please, because I'm tired of talking about referees.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to a bit more, because we haven't got into the Newcastle game yet. We won't start off with that decision part, because I know we've had back and forth on the group chat and stuff, and we don't agree on the Isak Odegaard thing. But just if we take that out of the situation, because I know you're saying it impacts the goal, sure, but I think your overall performance wasn't good enough anyway. Like if you take that goal away, you're still, based on you still, missing chances and Newcastle taking theirs, there's still a goal that they score and you guys don't reply. What did you make of the performance? Because there are some people out there, and I'm not only me, Arsenal fans, in fact, saying that there's not enough creativity. There's some people out there saying, I think, agree with you, that, you know, we had enough chances, which I also agree with, to at least get 2 goals. I mean, we're talking Havertz shouldering one in front of the goal where it's easier to score than to miss. We're talking Martinelli one-on-one with the keeper, crashing the post. I'm pretty sure someone else had a couple of. I remember off the top of my head, Saliba had a chance at a corner which he headed over, which I'm sure is one of the big chances. And there were some other chances you created from set pieces. Like what did you make of your performance? First of all, do you think you deserved to lose 2-0, or do you think it was an unfair kind of result based on the balance of play?
I don't think you can say that we deserved to win necessarily, because you've got to finish the chances to be able to deserve to win. But I think on any other day with those same stats, I think if you went and looked at those same stats for 1,000 other games, you're going to see more often than not the ones that had our stats would have won that game. Right? We dominated the ball, 70% possession. We shot 23 times, of which 23 times of which only 3 were on target, which is disgusting, right? We had far more XG than them. We had way more corners. We had far more accurate passes, more big chances created, more big chances missed, obviously, as well, right? So from my point of view, we dominated the ball, right? And that's not the only thing that matters, of course, right? We've said this many times before. If you have the ball and do nothing with it, you don't deserve to win. But if you add on to the fact that we created enough big chances to have scored 6 goals against them, right? And obviously this is big chances in the way that Statman, Dave, and all of these analysts and that define them. But obviously they're big enough chances that, like, for the most part, people tend to score them, right? That's the only reason why they're called big chances, because more often than not, people actually score them. So from my point of view, it's like we created enough to score that many goals against them and end up coming out with 0 goals in a game where somebody is shouldering balls that are literally blatantly one-on-one against the goalkeeper about 2 yards out. There's men that are hitting the post from again, not very far out, one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Then you add on to the fact that, like, we had 11 corners. We are corner FC, right? You'd expect with 11 corners, Arsenal would get a sniff at the goal at some point, right? Based off of what we've done or what we've been doing this season. So, like, all of that added together, I look at the game and I think, you know what? We didn't deserve to win because we didn't actually finish our dinner. But at the same time, 9 times out of 10, Arsenal wins that game. You know, with those stats, with that happening, Arsenal wins that game. And when I look at it, and this is where me and you disagreed, right? You were more disappointed by the fact that we lack creativity, right? And I'm fine with that. I agree that it is extremely disappointing that we seem to only have one way to score right now, which is spam crosses into the air or spam corners into the air and then somehow hope that somebody gets on the end of it and we score, right? I'm totally fine with that. That is very disappointing from my point of view, because you've heard me say many times before, I want us to be able to play multiple styles, but I liked our original style. I didn't want to get rid of that. I wanted to keep that while still being able to add other things onto it, right? We've added something else onto it, but we seem to have lost or forgotten how to do the original style of free-flowing, passing, kind of tiki-taka type football. That seems to have gone. That's madly disappointing to me. But from my point of view, I'm looking at that one result. How would we have won that one result given what we saw happen? Number one reason is we can't finish our dinner. All right? If Havertz could actually put a ball in the back of the net for once, that wasn't literally an open goal with no one around him. If Martinelli could literally keep the quality that he has all the way in the build-up of every single chance he ever creates and just keep it a little bit longer and not nanny the life out of it at the end, because that was what Nanny was famous for as well, right?
Class, man.
Not nanny the life out of it at the end, he'd be one of the most prolific bloody goal scorers that we've got. But instead, who's our top scorer right now in the Premier League?
Try Havertz.
It's Havertz. It's Donkey Havertz, which means that if that was Mo Salah, he would have 25 goals. Because that means that if Havertz has got 7 goals, he's probably missed at least 16 other chances that he should have scored. Right? So from my point of view, that is when I'm looking at it, like, what could we have actually done to win that game? What is the bigger problem on a day-by-day, short-term basis? It's the fact that we can't finish our dinner. When I look at long-term, of course, I agree with you. We need to fix the creativity problem. And long-term, sustainably, like to be a sustainably dominant team, we need to be able to fix that creativity problem. So I agree with you. We're not actually disagreeing. But my point is just, if I look at that one single game and say, how could we have won that with like not a massive overhaul of what we're doing? It'd be very clear. Swap Havertz out and get someone who can score.
Yeah,
that's all that we'd need to do.
I do agree with you. I think there's a couple of things we've got to factor in though. For example, you were the ball dominant team for sure, but after two, I haven't looked at this, right? And we joke about XG, and I normally pull it out when it suits my argument, but most of the time I don't. The stats can be misleading, right? So I would love to see what the stats were pre 55 minutes and post 55 minutes, because Newcastle went to a straight flat 5-5-0 after they scored the second goal and just went, we're going to defend for our lives and put no one forward. So you did have more of the ball, I'm sure, even on the stats before that.
Well, I can tell you the stats right here, mate.
Yeah, go on. Tell me, what were they looking like?
First half, we had 60 or 58% possession. They had 42.
Okay.
Our expected goals were 1.93. Theirs was 0.88. We had 14 shots, 3 of which were on target. So basically, we did not hit a shot on target for the entirety of the second half. We created 4 big chances in the first half, meaning we only created 2 in the second half. And essentially, that says to me, in the second half, we had even more of the ball. We had 80% possession, mate.
There you go, yeah.
We had 9 shots, none of them on target. 2 big chances, both missed, and 7 corners. So we just tried to batter the doors down over and over again, didn't get anywhere near their goal. So it's very clear that their physical style of play, combined with the fact that they're just going to sit behind the ball, we can't break them down.
Well, I mean, that does confirm the way I felt like it went in the moment, which is in the first half, I feel like they kind of went machine for machine with you. But they took their chance with Isak, and you missed your big chance that I can remember with Martinelli. But it was fairly even, if not, you had more of the ball. In the second half, that's when my disappointment watching a team try and break them down, and I used, Io, who's been on the pod before, like your great mate, was saying, like, in the second half is what disappointed me, because even though it's way harder, so I'm not taking away the context of when a team plays 5-5-0, it's very hard to be creative. It's very hard to make big chances because they're basically doing Jose Mourinho style. Park the bus FC. So I get that. Yeah, but completely.
we did it to people last season, mate. This is exactly how we frustrated the life out of City. We frustrated the life out of ball dominant teams last season, doing the same bloody thing, mate. We were playing a very compact kind of 4-4-2-esque, even pushing players into like more of like a 4-6 to frustrate them. And when you've got good enough big defenders in a small enclosed space, it's really difficult to break that down. But what's most annoying to me, and what I imagine was really annoying to City fans last year, was you've got players like Phil Foden and Martin Odegaard in your team. They are literally the perfect players to have in congested spaces where you're trying to fight against somebody. My biggest problem I've got, though, really is you need good attackers with that too. Like, I'm thinking if Saka was on the pitch at that point, that would be a good link up, right? We've seen many times where, Odegaard does that kind of like little Ozil-esque, like bounce off the floor kind of against where he's moving. Like, he'll move this way, kind of like the Bruno Fernandes one to Lisandro Martinez, right? He's moving one way, usually across the goal, and then he dinks it back the other way for whoever the wing back or the winger is. And he's done it a hell of a lot of times to Saka. And the great thing is that Saka's close control of the ball is so good that he's able to usually keep onto it. And that's also the reason why Liverpool don't really have this challenge too much either, because they've got a player like Salah who's basically got the ball stuck to his foot the whole time. And my big problem is, like, you saw it with Man City last season, right? A player like Haaland ain't going to do anything with the ball in that enclosed space. His touch ain't good enough. He's too big. He's not quick enough to really do anything with those kinds of balls. You need those tiny little guys like the Bernardo Silvas, the Fodens, the Sakas, the Martin Odegaards to break down that kind of thing. And yet we can't do it. This is the most frustrating thing to me of all, is that we've got Odegaard, who's arguably one of the most creative players in the league, and we still can't break them down. And he had a stinker as well.
He's going through a bit of a stinky patch. He hit the ground running when he came back from injury, and we were like, wow, like, this is the answer, because you had Saka, and it was difficult while he was out. but he's really found it difficult when you've had all these games, which is fair. Your fitness, your form will be tested coming back from injury when you're playing games in quick succession. But he's definitely found it difficult. He's ghosted some games. He hasn't been there, and I agree with you. Like, to create chances, you've got to have that player. I mean, for City, I think more of De Bruyne than Foden with that kind of stuff. But I get your point. You need the players.
Mean like the tight space.
Yeah, you need the players who've got close control to be able to, pick up those balls from an Odegaard or a De Bruyne and be able to shimmy through and make things count. Which, you're right, Saka is clearly that guy for you. Without Saka, it's just prayers and hopes, and that's maybe why
Nwaneri was also injured too.
Nwaneri is an option
too much on him, but he's also seems to have a similar type of play.
Yeah. He's an option, but apart from that, you don't have. It doesn't look like you have much. Like, Trossard's not offering that to you. Martinelli
he's got
needs
the touch
the ball.
of a Guro,
Martinelli needs the ball over the top. If you saw the
Yeah.
chance that he had. And I don't know why you didn't do that more, to be honest. That was my frustration. In the second half, I get it, they're deeper, so you're not really going to have the space. But it just felt like David Moyes-esque spam the crosses in. And as much as Havertz, maybe his biggest use might be heading in, I mean, you found in this game, that's clearly not one of his strengths, right? He's not
just
not
because
Drogba,
he's big, it's not because he's
not Drogba in the air. He can win the ball in a duel, it seems like, in the air. But that's kind of easier, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Your target is just win the ball. Yeah. When you need to focus it on goal, he clearly is a bit lacking. But that was my big thing. In the second half, obviously it's more difficult. They're 5-5-0, but you're hanging your hopes on Odegaard for the creativity because he's your captain to inspire. And unfortunately, he didn't really step up. And you're definitely hanging your hat on Havertz, who's the highest paid player you have at the club. Your big signing from a couple of years ago. When you look at what was available at that time for a similar price, it's enough to make an Arsenal fan cry, right? So I get it. It's they needed to do more. But let's move on to is it salvageable? Like, before we wrap up the Carabao Cup thing, do you think there's a chance you can go up to Tyneside and get a 2-0 kind of differential in the next result, or do you think you need to focus on FA Cup, League, other things?
Do I think it's possible? Yes. Do I think it will happen? No. So my prediction is no, we will not win. And Newcastle will go through to the final. Is it possible? Yeah. So I could look like an arsehole afterwards, but I'm done with this. I don't want to talk about it. We're not going to go up to St. James's Park, which is arguably one of the harder places to play. We're not going to play against Newcastle, who are essentially our bogey team at this point, on top of bloody Brighton as well, who seem to be a bogey team against us too. We're not going to go up there and win. And we're not going to win by more than 2 goals. There's no chance. So I don't want to go to penalties. I couldn't give a shit at this point. Get me out of this. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's talk about something else.
Man's had enough. All right, let's go on to probably one more thing quickly before we wrap up the Arsenal thing, which might enrage you even more. Arteta's coming in for criticism. All right, there's press conferences talking about footballs flying and all kinds of stuff. It's getting a bit
taken out of context, but okay.
Yeah. But you know what I mean, though, right? The media are zoning in on him because I agree with you.
Of course,
they're taking the snippets. They're making him look a bit mad out on these streets where they're talking about footballs and all this kind of stuff. He's definitely he's under some pressure. Like, do you think the pressure and criticism's fair, or do you think people need to chill? And what do you think about this cup stuff? Because I've seen some people analyse his cup form hasn't been the greatest at Arsenal, and do you think he needs to sort that out now going forward?
I think he deserves criticism, of course. Everyone deserves criticism if they're not doing a great job. Do I think it should lead to him getting sacked or people saying Arteta out? No. It's very clear. We are not Real Madrid. We do not have the ability to start sacking managers when we finish second in the league. I don't give a shit who you think we should be. We're not Real Madrid, all right? We don't get to sack managers that are coming second and that are making some of our best players even better, that are improving the quality of the team, improving the way that we play, improving the camaraderie of the team as well. We don't get to sack people at that point. And anybody that says that we should be sacking him, you're not a true Arsenal fan. What you are is a glory hunting and you don't understand that. What you need to realize is that there's 20 or 19 other teams that are fighting to stay in this league, of which at least 6 or 7 are very, very well resourced with equally as good, if not better, managers and players than we are, right? If you think that you can go and find somebody better than all of them, right, and somehow turn all of our like crappy players into great players, or somehow find a golden chest of money that's not going to break PSR rules so we can go and buy whoever we want whenever we want it, you're literally smoking something. And that's why you shouldn't have an opinion, or your opinion should be completely ignored, because you're talking absolute rubbish. So from that point of view, that's all. Yes, he deserves criticism because he needs to hear it. He needs to understand that he is not infallible, right? He can't just do whatever he wants and get away with it, right? He needs to understand that. I think he already understands that, though, to be perfectly honest with you. But he needs to hear it from the fans too. We need to be able to say, you are playing like shit. Figure out a way to play less like shit, please, right? Now, in terms of the cup form, I don't think we need to push on that too much. I think obviously from his point of view, it's very clear he's been focused on the league, right? The way that he's put out like weakened teams over the in cup appearances previously, the way that he's always kind of used it as a way for the kids to play, etc., etc. He's always been more focused on the league, and if you look at our league form, you can see it's where we've performed the best, right? But at the same time, when he first came into our team, we did win a cup, did we not? So I think it depends on where he focuses. My big question for him will be, and over time we will see if he can do it, is can you create a squad and a system that can win everything at the same time? Because yes, going to win the Premier League would be great, but as soon as we do that, what are people going to be saying? They're going to be saying, okay, now can you win the Champions League? Can you also maintain your league form as well? Can you win all of the cups? Because at the end of the day, that's the goal, right? The goal is to win it all. We're a greedy bunch in football. So once we win that Premier League, everyone's going to be shouting for everything else. And I'm not sure he can do that. I haven't seen him really maintain really good form across everything. It almost always feels like he sacrificed something. No, I understand that. He's also a rotation merchant, right? Like he loves a rotation. He's not going to Klopp style, just like play the same team every game for 60 games a season. He's not going to do that unless your name is Bukayo Saka, right? So I understand that, but he's got to find a way then to build a squad that is good enough to compete in multiple leagues, multiple cups, whatever else. Because right now I'm not seeing it, man. There's a clear difference from whatever he focuses on. You can see a difference in the thing that he's not focused on. And I need to be able to see less of a difference between the two of them.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And I understand why Arsenal fans are kind of upset. Some of the reactionary ones, because you want to see progress every year, but a football club is not linear. Like even the best ones under Wenger, Arsenal under Wenger, United under Sir Alex Ferguson, in recent times, they've had seasons where their position has dropped compared to the previous season. There's always context to be added in. You've had a lot of injuries this season, and also things have been really difficult with the transfer business. So it's a difficult one. I think he deserves a criticism, but people should try and hold it back as much as possible. Otherwise, you're going to force him out, and you don't want to do that because, like you said, the manager market, it ain't easy.